blackmail, revenge, sex parties, baby oil, and public lawsuits. Welcome to your average Monday in Hollywood. Alright guys, so last week on Thursday, as I was getting ready to release my episode on Taylor Swift's involvement in the It Ends With Us drama, unfortunately, a new bombshell dropped. But at the time I had already filmed the episode, I was also having a particularly nauseous pregnancy day, so I did not feel up to doing a selfie edition. So I think we should talk about it now because Justin Baldoni's lawyers have come forward with some pretty insane accusations about Blake Lively and Taylor Swift. So as we covered in Thursday's episode, Taylor Swift has officially been subpoenaed by Justin Baldoni's team, and of course, both Taylor and Blake's teams are challenging this, but the new update in the case is that after Blake's team fought the subpoena and filed their response, Justin Baldoni's lawyers then filed yet another response. And guys, every single time I think that this case cannot get even more crazier, they outdo themselves. So let's quickly go over that before we get into Diddy. Now, before we do, make sure that you like this episode and subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and of course, ring that notification bell to make sure that you stay up to date on all of our episodes. And as a reminder, I am going on tour this spring. We already had our first couple of stops and it was so much fun, and we do have tickets remaining in some of the cities, so if you want to check that out, go to brettcooper.com where you can see all of the stops and buy all the tickets. You can also find information there about Cooper Confidential, which is my subscriber-only platform. Again, that is at brettcooper.com and also in the description below. Alright, so the insane update is that while Blake Lively's team is fighting the subpoena and saying, do not involve my friend, do not involve Taylor Swift, there is no way that she is involved in this production whatsoever. While all of that was happening, Justin Baldoni's team was talking to a source and preparing something behind the scenes. So, in response to Blake's team fighting all of that, they filed a response claiming that Blake Lively threatened to release personal text messages if Taylor did not make a public statement in defense of Blake Lively. She was saying, you need to be on my side, otherwise texts from our 10-year friendship are going to come out. Now, I do not know if she was saying that as a form of like general blackmail and saying like, I am going to intentionally release things, or if she was just saying like, if you don't come out and support me, then this will just come out in court. I really don't know. But regardless, if this is true, it is truly wild. Now, all of this is coming from a tip from an anonymous source that spoke to Justin Baldoni's legal team. We have no idea who the source is, but obviously this is somebody who is very, very close to Taylor Swift, and it has to be somebody that is credible enough that would spark Justin's team into action to actually file this in a court of law, to send this in a response to a judge. Now, in addition to all of that, Justin's legal team, based on that information, is now also accusing Blake Lively of witness tampering because she allegedly was asking Taylor to delete text messages between the two of them. So she is simultaneously saying, allegedly, that Taylor was not involved and she should not be subpoenaed, and then on the other side of her mouth, behind the scenes, allegedly, is saying you need to delete these text messages so that you cannot be complicit. Now, of course, Blake Lively's team immediately shot back, denied all of these accusations. However, the update as of this morning is that Justin's lawyer signed a sworn affidavit confirming that all of this information is accurate. Now, of course, we don't know who the source is. We have not seen their messages. We have no idea. But that seems pretty freaking credible to me. Truly, truly wild. I'm sure more will come out. Taylor Swift, whether she likes it or not, is embroiled in all of this. There are all of these like Easter eggs going on with her right now. Like I think that she actually might be releasing a new album or doing her re-recording of Reputation. All of the Taylor Swift stans on X are posting about that. I think that she is trying to focus on that, but her ex-best friend, or maybe still best friend, who knows, Blake Lively, is pulling her into this scandal. So hopefully we will have updates for you on that as well. But now, without further ado, we need to turn our attention to a different celebrity lawsuit, one that is far more disturbing, probably the craziest to ever come out of Hollywood. And of course, that would be the case surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. Now, before we get into this, I do just want to give a disclaimer. There are going to be some incredibly disturbing things that we're talking about that are very sexual in nature, that are very violent in nature. I'm sure that if you know any of the rumors about Diddy, you probably know what I'm talking about. So if that is not your cup of tea, if you don't want to hear that today, this might not be the episode for you, but I'm just giving you a warning. Now, this is going to be a long trial. Who knows how long this is going to go on? I think right now it is set to go for 8 weeks, but who knows if they will actually come to any decision, whether there will be a mistrial, who knows? I'm expecting this to be in the public eye for a very long time, and so I think the best way to start this and start unpacking it for everyone, as we're probably, all encountering tweets and TikToks and news stories about all of this, is to go back to the beginning and lay a good foundation, because there are a lot of stories here, a lot of characters here, a lot of history that I do think we need to understand. So the first piece of context that you need to have is that after after years and years of rumors and speculations involving his freak-offs and his parties and connections to, Justin Bieber and Usher and all of these different things, Diddy was officially arrested in September of last year, and his trial has just now started again. It is supposed to be around 8 weeks long. And one of the most important people that you need to know about who is involved in this case, this is the prosecution's star witness, that would be Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. So to start us all off, I just kind of want to walk through their relationship and timeline because there is so much context here that is important to understand as we all inevitably watch this unfold on social media and in the public eye. So to go back to the start, Cassie Ventura met Diddy in 2005 at the age of 19. And in 2006, Cassie signed a 10-album record deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, which is Diddy's label. And guys, after learning everything that we have just learned about Justin Bieber and the contracts that he's under, the way that all of that works, the way that he is still under contract because of the albums that he is supposed to produce, you need to know 10 albums, that is a career-long contract. And that only becomes crazier and obviously very sinister when you start to understand the personal relationship that they had outside of business and outside of that connection with the record label. So then fast forward a year in 2007, while Diddy was still in a relationship with Kim Porter, and even though throughout their entire relationship she was under contract with his label, she only released 2 things. She released 1 album in 2006 and a mixtape in 2013. So why didn't she release more? What happened with those 10 albums? What was happening behind the scenes? Well, it seems like their relationship was taking up most of the time. In 2012, they finally made their relationship public, and they were quickly seen as an it couple. And they were seen as an it couple for years. They attended red carpets together. They posted heartfelt messages about each other on social media. I mean, they were together for years and years and years. But what the public was seeing was very different than what Cassie is saying happened behind closed doors. Now, before we get into all of that, I want to take a second to tell you about my sponsor, Nimi Skincare. Now, I am so excited to be promoting Nimi again because I worked with them years ago. They were one of my first ever sponsors when I started on YouTube, and it has been so amazing to watch their mission and their company grow. Now, since we last worked together, they have launched a new line of high-powered, clean products made with ingredients that you can trust and feel great about putting on your skin. And just this month, they have introduced the beginnings of their new body care collection. I started using Nimi again just a few months ago after getting pregnant because my hormones have obviously been going crazy and I was struggling to keep my skin under control. I was having awful acne pop up all over my chin. I decided that I should probably start washing my face with something a little more high powered than just water, and their products totally changed the game and got my skin back on track literally within days. It was incredible. And of course, Nimi is more than just skincare. Their company represents amazing values that we can all stand behind, and their products are proudly made in the USA. And because of that, they are not forced to increase their prices when tariffs and costs rise, so you can always trust that you are getting great value. So if you are ready to make the switch, take Nimi's simple skincare quiz on their website and get a skincare routine curated just for your skin type and your concerns. So head on over today to NimiSkincare.com, that is N-I-M-I skincare.com, and use code Cooper for 15% off your order. Your skin and your wallet will thank you. Okay, so now that you guys have been introduced to Cassie, we can all be introduced to Diddy's freak-off parties. And in 2008, when Cassie was only 22 years old, Diddy first asked her to partake in what is now known as a Diddy freak-off. And he framed this as this voyeuristic fantasy, explaining that he wanted to watch her engage in sexual activities with another male, specifically an escort that he would bring in while he directed the encounters. And these freak-offs happened at various times in different locations around the world. They were elaborate. They were produced sex performances between Cassie and male prostitutes that Diddy arranged, directed, masturbated during, and more often than not, electronically recorded. Now, according to Cassie, these freak-offs would be 36 to 48 to 72 hours, and the longest went on for 4 days. He was producing these sexual activities between her and other people as he sort of engaged and directed all of this for 4 days straight. Now, these freak-offs continued for years, and Cassie and Diddy did go on a break in 2011, but they got back together, and these freak-offs just kept continuing. And I want you guys to think about this because it is not just about what happened behind closed doors, but how these doors were able to stay shut for over 20 years. Because based on what we're all learning in this trial from the testimonies, from everything coming out, is that these freak-offs often took place in relatively public areas. Like they took place in hotel rooms where Diddy's activities would go so far as to destroy an entire massive suite, requiring the entire place to be fully renovated, fully gutted, and fully redecorated, and the public didn't hear any of it. He would be caught on security cameras, and that footage would never come out, and no one would ever say anything. How was this such an open secret for 20 years, and it is just now coming to trial. Now, moving forward a little bit through all of those years, in 2018, Cassie and Diddy officially announced to the public that they had finally officially separated. And Cassie then, very quickly after, began dating the trainer that Diddy had hired and assigned to her during their relationship. Take a look at this TMZ article from 2019. Diddy sources say that Cassie betrayed him by sleeping with her trainer she calls BS. Now, at the time, Cassie's team denied all of these allegations, and they were insisting that they started dating after their breakup, but obviously, Diddy felt betrayed, and he was angry. And Cassie has now alleged that after the breakup, he came to her apartment and he raped her. So even though their breakup was final in the public eye, there were still things happening behind closed doors. Now, another piece of context that you'll probably see throughout this trial is that Cassie ended up marrying this trainer, and his name is Alex, and they now have multiple children together. And right now, during this trial, while she is testifying, she is 8 months pregnant with, I believe, their third child. Now, fast forward to 2023, that is when Cassie finally filed a lawsuit against Diddy, as you can see here. One article reads, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs faced a lawsuit by singer Cassie Ventura that accused Combs of using his position of power as a music executive and wealth to abuse Ventura for nearly 10 years. A day after it was filed, the two reached a settlement on November 17th. Now, by this time, obviously, Cassie was married, she had 2 children, and the reason why she filed this lawsuit is because she started having flashbacks because of the trauma that she endured during this relationship, and she just could no longer take it. At one point, according to the stories that she has now told, she asked her husband Alex if he could do this without her and be a single parent. She said, quote, "I couldn't take the pain." She basically said that she wanted to walk right out the front door into oncoming traffic, and the only reason why she didn't do that is because her husband convinced her not to. And this prompted her to go get help to work through all the trauma that she had endured during this relationship with Diddy. Now, through going to therapy, she started unpacking all of this, and she began writing down everything that she had endured until she had an entire book full of this abuse. And finishing that book is what finally inspired her to take action. Quote, "I wanted Sean to read it, to understand. I don't think he understood. I was begging for sorries. I wanted him to understand the pain that he put me through." And even though she was begging for sorries and she wanted to leave, nothing ever happened. And so years later, all she wanted was some kind of apology and acknowledgement of everything that he had put her through. Now, at the time, she did send Diddy this book, but he and his team, they did not take her seriously. Then she offered to sell this book to him for $30 million. He said no again. So that is when she made the decision to sue him. She filed the lawsuit, which then settled for $20 million in 24 hours, and that lawsuit is then what sparked the criminal investigation that we are now seeing. Because it's not Diddy versus Ventura in this case, this is a federal prosecution, which makes the story and makes the allegations and the accusations even bigger than just what happened with Cassie Ventura. Now, before we get into his charges and everything that has happened with the trial thus far, I want to take a second to talk about my sponsor, Preborn. Now, when a woman faces an unplanned pregnancy, her whole world is shaken, and she wants to make the right choice, but often in this crazy culture and society, everyone around her is insisting that what she has inside of her is just a clump of cells, not a life. And Preborn's mission is to empower that woman with the choice of life. Their network of clinics provide women with the care and resources they need to choose their baby and to have a successful pregnancy and start to motherhood. And that all begins with an ultrasound, because with an unplanned pregnancy, an ultrasound doubles a baby's chance at life. Twice as many women choose life when they see their baby or babies on the first ultrasound. And last year alone, at their clinics, Preborn rescued over 67,000 babies through ultrasound. And they're not stopping anytime soon. And today, you can join them on this mission. One ultrasound is just $28, and you can play a part by helping a mother choose life. So save a baby today for just $28. Just visit preborn.com/Brett to get started. Again, that is preborn.com/Brett to help save a life. Now, with the soaring costs of groceries, utilities, and childcare, among many other things, so many Americans have had to rely on credit cards. And with interest rates still so high, it can feel daunting and overwhelming to face those charges. And that is where American Financing steps in. American Financing can help you pay off high interest debt by using your home's existing equity. They are a family-owned mortgage lender that has been around for 25 years, and their mortgage consultants are salary-based, so there is no incentive for them to put you into a loan that doesn't make sense for you and your family. And right now, American Financing is helping homeowners just like you save an average of over $800 a month. Some are even seeing these results in as little as 10 days. And if you get started today, you could even skip 2 mortgage payments and there are no upfront fees. Just go to americanfinancing.net/Brett or call today at 800-852-2010. Again, that's 800-852-2010 to get started. So now we've officially laid the groundwork, and hopefully that gives you guys some good context. We now know the story of Cassie Ventura, at least how it all began. We've heard the rumors of the freak-offs for literally years, the allegations of rape, the ties to Usher and Jay-Z. But what is Diddy actually being charged with? Because I think that is something that a lot of people don't understand. It was something that I really didn't understand until I started doing research for this episode. So to break all of that down, Diddy is facing 5 charges, which include racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, the racketeering charge alleges that he ran a criminal enterprise through his business empire, mainly his record label Bad Boy Entertainment, from 2004 to 2024, engaging in crimes including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Now, on top of that, he is facing 2 counts of sex trafficking where he is accused of forcing women into commercial sex acts, including organizing these freak-offs, using drugs and violence and threats to ensure compliance. And the last 2 counts are involving him transporting women across state and international lines for the purpose of prostitution. And I really think this is important to lay all of this out because if you read the headlines and you see all the stories about Diddy and Cassie, you might think that this is some, civil lawsuit between the 2 of them about their relationship, but this is a criminal investigation on the basis of sex trafficking. That is what they are accusing him of. Which takes us into the next thing that I think we need to break down, which is his legal team, because guys, it is stacked. Now, there are at least 8 people on his legal team, at least that we know of. The heavy hitters include a man named Mark Agnifilo. Hopefully I am saying that correctly. He is most famously known for defending the NXIVM leader Keith Raniere. If you guys have not heard that story, that cult, it is truly, truly insane. There's a whole podcast about it, but that is the man who defended him. Now, next up on his team is a woman named Tenny Garagos. Now, interestingly, Tenny's father is also an incredibly powerful celebrity attorney, and his past clients have included Hunter Biden, Chris Brown, and Michael Jackson. And her father, Mark, is a friend of Diddy's, and he has repeatedly defended Diddy throughout this entire situation, even as recently as a few days ago on Megyn Kelly's show and in an interview with TMZ, which is just crazy to me. Moving on, we also have Brian Steele, and you also might recognize him from when he represented Young Thug, and the clips from that trial went viral. And yes, everyone, he is the lawyer that told the judge in that trial that Thug stood for truly humble under God.
He would be truly humble under God. That's what thug means.
Now, also during that trial, Brian Steele was sentenced to 20 days in jail for contempt of court during that case, but he never ended up serving that sentence, although something that is kind of funny is he requested to be put with Young Thug while he was serving it, but I think he got out on parole or something else. We never actually ended up going to jail. And I'm taking a look at all of this, and I'm just thinking, this is an insane team. And I don't necessarily mean that in a good way. I don't know if I would want the truly humble under God lawyer representing me in this case. I mean, they truly are media heavy hitters. They're definitely experienced, but they have history. And I'm not sure if that will hinder or help Diddy in this case. We will certainly see. Now, on the prosecution side, we interestingly have an all-female team, and that is led by a woman named Marie Comey, who is the U.S. attorney who prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, it is reported that this team has a 90 to 98% conviction rate, so that might not look great for Mr. Truly Humble under God over there on the other side. Now, in the grand scheme of things, we know less about this team than we do other lawyers in this very weird celebrity trial world that we're all living in right now, which is probably a good thing. Now, moving on from that, we also need to talk about the jury, because obviously that was the very first thing that happened in this trial. It was the very first thing that started going viral last week. They finally decided upon the jury, which is now comprised of 8 men and 4 women, which of course social media was immediately up in arms about, with women who were crying and saying that the men were all going to be sympathetic to Diddy because they were also misogynistic. But guys, I just want to take a step back, because let's just be real. Based on all the stories that we are seeing come out of this trial, everything that we have heard about Diddy, everything that we know about these freak-offs now, based on what Cassie has said, I think both men and women will be disturbed, so I don't think you really need to worry about that. Now, in addition to the jury being mostly men, they are also mostly over the age of 40. 9 out of 12 are over the age of 40, and 5 are over the age of 50. And when they were picking the jury, they were asked questions about their taste in music, music, their views on infidelity, that sort of thing, their interest in pop culture, and the majority of them, interestingly, prefer classical music over hip-hop, so these are not going to be people who are well acquainted with Diddy or his label or his music or any of these stories, which is probably a very good thing. Now, on top of that, 7 of these individuals also work in more analytical fields or did work in them in their career because they're like 70 years old, so by now they're obviously retired, happily living at home, listening to their classical music before they were pulled out of their recliners to be on the jury of this case. Now, based on what I have learned as I've been reading articles about all of this, it's not so much about picking the perfect jury for this case as much as it is about removing people who could be biased or already invested in the case and in the story. So these 70-year-old male classical music aficionados seem to fit the mark, in my opinion. So I am not too concerned about that in the slightest. Now, another thing to note, which we did touch on when we were talking about the charges, is that this trial will be heavily revolved around consent versus coercion and domestic violence versus sex trafficking. Because the prosecution is arguing that Diddy's freak-offs were part of this entire criminal sex trafficking ring, while Diddy's lawyers are arguing that yes, some of his behavior might have been indefensible and morally wrong, but that it was not sex trafficking, that domestic violence is not sex trafficking, and we do have to acknowledge that he is not on trial for domestic violence. Again, this isn't just about his relationship with Cassie Ventura. And I think that this will be hard for a lot of the public and the viewers to swallow because this seems insane to have to separate everything that Cassie went through with this idea of it being a criminal sex trafficking ring, because we're watching and we're hearing all of these awful, insane things that he did, but that is legally not what this case is entirely about. And the prosecution has to prove that all of this was not consensual and that it was a criminal enterprise. That is the key term. Meanwhile, the defense has to prove that although these stories and this evidence might make the jury uncomfortable because it is just so awful, everything that they're hearing, they can't judge him for it because it isn't what he's being tried for, so they also have to be able to, emotionally separate that from what is actually happening in the trial. And the defense is also already going after Cassie and saying that it really wasn't all that bad and that she could have just left him, that she was not held there against her will, which, in my opinion, just made her testimony at the start of this trial even more impactful and even more horrifying, because people were quickly reminded that her just walking out the door and leaving wasn't really that simple, as evidenced by footage that was released in May of last year. Now, if you guys did not see that video when it was circulating, here is a refresher.
In the surveillance video, Combs can be seen grabbing Ventura and throwing her to the ground. As Ventura lies on the ground, Combs then kicks her twice and attempts to drag her on the floor back to the hotel room. Ventura is seen picking up a hotel phone. Combs seems to walk back to the hotel room, then returns and appears to shove her in a corner. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction.
Now, what you guys just saw is a very, very small clip of a 2016 incident where Cassie was trying to leave a freak-off. She was trying to escape the hotel where all of this was happening, so obviously she couldn't just walk out the door. It was not that simple, and this was the very first thing that the prosecution showed as this trial was kicking off just a couple of days ago. Now, soon after this was shown, Cassie took the stand. She took the stand to give her testimony on days 1 and 2, and she detailed what would happen during these freak-offs and how they were planned. And I know I gave a disclaimer as we started this story, but I'm just going to give an additional one here because this is really where it gets graphic, because some of the things that she shared were that Diddy and male prostitutes would be on top of her, peeing in her mouth until she was choking. That Diddy would have his security take her phone away as punishment. That he would keep her locked up in these hotel rooms after she had faced this abuse to heal. And again, like I said earlier, that these would go on for days and days at a time. Now, when asked about their first freak-off, she testified that she had just turned 22 years old. This was in 2008, when Combs first asked her to engage in the freak-offs, and she was confused and nervous. "I just remember my stomach falling to my butt," she said, when asked how she felt about participating. But she added, "I loved him so much." She said that she felt like she could not refuse Combs because she didn't know what no could be or what no could turn into, alleging that the repercussions for disobeying Combs were sometimes violent, per the Associated Press, which obviously we all just saw in video form. "Sean controlled a lot of my life," she said, whether it was her career, the way she dressed, everything. Now, in addition to sharing what happened at these freak-offs, she also shared explicit details about the toll that they took on her body, including UTIs and mouth sores and gastrointestinal issues from all of the sexual activities that she was having to engage in. The UTIs were apparently so bad and so pervasive that antibiotics could not even fight them. Now, during these 2 days of testimony, she broke down in tears multiple times. Again, she is 8 months pregnant. She has not seen Diddy in years. She's having to take the stand and face him and detail all of this. Now, after talking about about the freak-offs, she also went into detail about the rape that had allegedly occurred after their 2018 breakup. And this was the only time when her husband did excuse himself from the room. And it is rumored that her husband, Alex, again, that is the trainer that Diddy had hired, who she ended up marrying, will be called to testify by the defense, and the defense claims that they have text messages of Alex threatening to beat Combs up. That's a whole other thing, so just know that that might be happening in the future. Now, of course, the defense's entire argument is that all of this, everything that you just heard, was totally consensual. In one People article, they wrote, during cross-examination of Philip, a male escort who said that Ventura paid him for sex while Combs watched, the music mogul's lawyer, Xavier Donaldson, attempted to paint the sexual encounter as consensual. The indictment against Combs alleges that he forced or coerced women into having sex with male sex workers, a claim the defense has attempted to push back on. Quote, "Was Ventura the one who paid you?" Donaldson asked. "Yes," Philip responded. "She wasn't drunk or high?" Donaldson asked, to which Philip responded by agreeing that she wasn't. Quote, "Is it fair to say that she was in complete control of everything she did?" Donaldson asked. And then Philip responded with, "I cannot say that." So they are actively trying to shift blame away from Diddy and saying that even though this is your star witness and all of these things happened with this woman, she was in full control. She played a role in this. She was not coerced into this. Actually, she hired the people. Maybe she even wanted to be there. But in my opinion, the fact that Diddy was filming all of this, that he was holding the tapes of these freak-offs over her head and over her career, removes all consent because of the power imbalance in this relationship. I mean, based on what we know, the videos of these freak-offs were allegedly used for blackmail, and if she did not participate in the freak-offs or pushed back or tried to leave him, he would threaten to release the videos and get violent, as we obviously saw in that 2016 video. So while that is the clearest argument that the defense has, I don't think it's going to be super easy for them to convince the jury of that, considering all of the evidence that is against Diddy and supports everything that Cassie is saying. Now, obviously, guys, this is just getting started. I think that we are on like day 3 or 4 of this trial now. The trial is supposed to go on for at least 8 weeks. There are also over 50 victims and 50 witnesses in the case, but because Diddy is being held without bail, there are legal experts out there who are hoping that that will encourage and empower other people to come forward to join this case. We'll see if that actually happens. And another thing that I want to note is that there already have been and there will be a ton of celebrities mentioned in this case, but that does not necessarily mean that they are all involved. And I know that we talk about Hollywood being a crazy, depraved, weird, awful place, and all these people are connected, and while obviously I'm sure that some of them are, I'm sure that some of them attended these parties, not all of them did. For example, Michael B. Jordan was brought up in the jury selection because he went on a date with Cassie at some point in her life, and he could potentially be brought up in her testimony and be involved in the trial. So that's just an important thing to note as you're watching all of this unfold, that yes, you might see familiar names, but that doesn't mean that they were complicit in these activities. Now, the last thing that I want to say is about Diddy's family, because this might be the craziest part of watching all of this unfold. I mean, going back to last year when he was initially charged and arrested, his entire family rallied behind him. They released statements, they did collabed Instagram posts saying, "We love you, Dad, we support you." They have been behind him from the beginning, and they are still standing behind him. And obviously Diddy's team wants to show a united front to the jury, that all of his kids are there supporting him, that his ex-wives are there supporting him, and almost all of his kids, his daughters, literally showed up to the trial and sat through these testimonies. They are sitting through all of this. They are hearing everything that their father did. And allegedly, the only time they excused themselves was during a particularly graphic breakdown of a sexual encounter between Diddy and Cassie and a male escort. But for the rest of the time, they were there. They watched all the videos. They listened to all the testimonies. His young daughters are hearing all of this. Like, that's insane to me. And I know that that's like a legal strategy, but this also feels like a humiliation ritual in a way. And his family, again, has repeatedly said that he is innocent of these charges, but obviously they're watching all of this unfold. They know that he has skeletons in the closet. And I don't know, like, relationship-wise, how you come back from that or why you would even want to. Like, what is the motivation to actually be there? So it will be interesting to see if that support actually remains throughout the entire trial. Just from an emotional or even common sense point of view, I can't imagine that it will. But if it does, I just have to say that I think Hollywood is even more depraved than I could ever imagine that it is. So with all of that, guys, I hope I am leaving you with a good breakdown of the beginning of this trial. Hopefully you have a good foundation as you are seeing all of this unfold and you're watching all the TikToks, because I know that I was feeling bombarded and overwhelmed with everything happening, because this truly is a bombshell trial. But the last thing that I want to say, that I want to leave you with, is that while this case is involving Diddy and is about Diddy, it isn't just about him. because he is just one example of the ways that powerful people prey on others and the disgusting, abhorrent behaviors that go unreported, specifically in the music and the entertainment business. And while I personally believe that Diddy should absolutely be in jail, whether it is for years and years of domestic abuse and rape, or whether it is because of a sex trafficking ring, there are others who were involved in this who have not been charged. What about the people who participated in these freak-offs? What about the people who covered up for him for years? What about the people who blackmailed Diddy, who are even above him in this? What about the music executives that might have set him on that path? We're not talking about any of them, and I think we should be. Let's take it from the top. Where were you born?
Kansas?
Kansas?
Yeah, the pineapple state.
Right, pretty sure that's Hawaii.
Well, I did spend a summer there.
And where were you raised?
Texas.
According to my sources, you were born in Brazil, frozen in Thailand, and trying to cross over the Mexican border when my boys caught you last week.
I've got wanderlust?
So you're a world-traveling cow from Kansas, and your only documentation is a sticker that says proudly made in the USA? Smells like bull to me, pal. Don't be fooled by meat that's lying about where it's from. Good Ranchers delivers real American meat, born and raised in the good old USA. No imports, no imposters. 100% American meat delivered.